Hello and welcome to another video. So we're going to be doing something different. I'm actually going to be doing a Codesmith review, and so I've actually been in Codesmith for 1 week so far. And just to give you a brief overview of why. So I originally had a CS degree from UCSD, but I was planning to attend med school, and so I didn't really intern or anything. Didn't really have too much experience, and I was only starting to apply to tech jobs this year. So I was doing leak codes like last year, and I was applying to tech jobs this year, and I started making the YouTube channel this year. But it was definitely tough because I was applying at the start of the year, so everyone was pretty much firing. And so I did have a few good interviews with some good tech companies. One of them I actually passed the tech screen, but unfortunately they weren't hiring after I passed the tech screen. And one of them I got to a round two, and then I failed round two. And so I just wanted to, I felt like I could learn some front end fundamentals and actually make some projects, not just do leak codes. And also, I wanted to get some help with my resume on LinkedIn and things like that. And so I looked into boot camps, and I have a lot of friends in tech, and so they thought it was kind of like a scam. And I looked into boot camps, I looked into YouTube reviews of boot camps, and Codesmith was pretty much like one of the two best ones that I've seen for like reviews and things like that. So I think it was Codesmith and Rhythm School. And the benefit to Rhythm for me was I think Rhythm had a Python tech stack, and Codesmith is only in JavaScript. But I just applied to both, and I felt like the application process for Codesmith was a bit tougher. Codesmith seemed like it moves a bit faster, and I just got into an earlier cohort for Codesmith. So I decided to go with Codesmith, and I'm gonna go over like what we did in week one, kind of the prep for it, so people that want to go into boot camps kind of get a better understanding of what Codesmith is like. So I'm gonna try to do like a week by week or maybe every few weeks review. And so originally for Codesmith, what you need to do is they actually give you like a bunch of stuff that you need to prepare for to pass their interview. And so if you've done leak codes, especially if you've done leak codes in JavaScript, you pretty much are good to go. I never touched JavaScript before the interview, and I was able to learn enough to pass in like a week or two. So it's pretty similar to Python, like it's not too bad. I think the people that just get into coding right away take like roughly 8, 9 months to be able to pass, but if you've done leak codes, if you can do like medium leak codes or something, you're fine. So anyway, so what they teach you is they teach you functions and execution context, and then you have to learn callbacks, how to make functions, and then basic like JavaScript functions like map, filter, things like that. You learn closures, you learn recursion. It's pretty basic recursion. It's like if you can do like elite code easy or maybe some like easy medium in recursive format, then you're good. And so the ones that I needed to actually brush up on the most were the OOP, because in JavaScript you can like edit the prototype and you can do things like object.create, and it's just like a different format than Python. I was totally used to using just classes, so I can show you some of these. Like let's see here. Yeah, so like I wasn't used to making functions that create objects, right? Because I was just using classes in Python, so that was definitely something new to me. And then using like this dot greet type of things, and using also arrow functions was new to me. But I mean, I picked it up pretty fast. So, and then the constructor stuff I was familiar with, but yeah, this type of stuff I wasn't. And using a prototype, I also had to like, I basically just watched like a 2 hour video. They had really nice videos of like old sessions they had. So they have these things called hard parts that you can attend if you want to. They're on Zoom where they go over these things, or you could just watch videos. And I think you are required to attend like one of them to apply, just so you can get an introduction to it. I definitely felt it was like a little bit basic, but at the same time, I learned like a decent amount of stuff. And so once they started doing the constructor stuff, that's what I was like more familiar with. Like, let's see here, like this kind of format, right? So when you have a class and functions and things, this is like similar to Python, so it's pretty good there. And then the other unit I needed to actually learn a little bit was, but they didn't really test you on it very much, was async. So there is no async in Python because Python is multi-threaded, but in JavaScript is single-threaded. And so essentially async is you call a function that takes some time to execute. And so you have to figure out how that actually works and like what the order of everything is. Not too bad, but something. And yeah, so I did all these. I had a technical interview, and then they actually wanted me to do another one because they had some feedback. I felt like, I mean, I answered all their questions really fast. I don't think I had too many errors, but I think they said I didn't communicate well enough, and so they wanted me to do another one. I think they want to like challenge you, and I wasn't really challenged, so they wanted me to do another one, and then they did another one, and they asked me some link codes, and I said I knew them, and so what I actually had to write was an async method that had to use like a queue or something. It was reasonably difficult, but not too bad, right? Like we got through it, but I think it was an hour interview, and I did like 2 questions, so it wasn't too bad. Anyway, so I got into it, and but I kind of knew this would happen, right? Like, I think I'm pretty advanced in algorithms and data structures, but my front end experience is quite lacking. Haven't made too many projects, so I definitely felt like on the algorithms part I would be doing good. Okay, so let's break down the first week that we had here, and so this was day one. So they had to meet your cohort, and then so I'm doing a online one on Zoom on the West Coast, and so I think the cohort's like 30 people, and I haven't worked with too many of them. So I think I worked with like 3 people, and like I said, we've done data structures and algorithms, and it's new to most of them, and it's not new to me. So I'm just like pretty far ahead in terms of that area. But anyway, so we had like a welcome, and then where people introduce themselves, and we had an assessment. And so there was a pre-course that they made you do, and I can actually show you that. So I have some repositories here, and so this I actually did learn some new stuff. So they had a setting up your dev environment, and I'm actually using Windows, and so it's definitely annoying for Windows. So for Windows, they recommend you to use this thing called WSL, which is pretty much I can show you. So I'm still having some bugs with it, but essentially it's like a Linux-based environment, and then you can have all your files on here because they don't want you to use Windows. And so I've actually used Linux when I got my degree, so I'm familiar with like a decent amount of Linux, like how to do like CDLS, how to go to different folders, some basic shit. And so that wasn't too bad, but definitely their instructions to download it were, some of it was a bit outdated, and it definitely took me a little while to get everything installed, like Node and MongoDB, Postgres, and things like that. And so yeah, so I got everything installed, and then they had 3 pre-course things, and so they actually recommended you to do because I got in the week before it started. I think I got in on Wednesday and started on Monday. They recommend you to do the shorter pre-course because I think they said the normal pre-course takes like 30 to 90 hours. But I was like, oh, a lot of it's on like algorithms. Could do it pretty fast, like whatever. Let's see how it goes. And so for this pre-course part 1, it was pretty much just, I would say, easy leak codes, something like that, right? Where you just have like pretty straightforward stuff in JavaScript. Yeah, it doesn't get too hard. There was one, I don't think it was in the beginner. Let me see here, what it's in here. How tough were these? For each map, filter, yeah, so like make all these. That wasn't too bad, I think. Unique index, there was just a lot, but yeah, like if pretty much easy to maybe like, medium leak codes, but I'd say pretty easy. Okay, and so in the pre-course part 2, and this is the stuff that was new to me, so they had you make a Google clone and a Bootstrap clone, and then they had this fundamentals thing, which was just more JavaScript, like just pretty straightforward JavaScript questions that people, I think, should have already known once they got into it. I think some things I didn't know was like how memoization works a little bit in JavaScript, because I'm used to, in most of my leak codes, I'm used to just like memoizing with like a tuple or whatever as a key. And so it works a little bit different in JavaScript. So mostly I was just kind of getting used to the syntax of JavaScript. And so, yeah, so for this one, I can pull these up really quick to show you like what my clones look like. I definitely had some help with like a front end guy, and I was Googling a lot of stuff. It wasn't too bad, but definitely not super comfortable with these front end things. So I made a Google clone, but it doesn't actually do anything. Like it's just supposed to simulate Google, but it doesn't actually have any functionality. And I made a Bootstrap clone, which once again, I looked up a lot of stuff for, and I think I ChatGPT'd a decent amount of it just to like, because I had like 4 days to do everything. So it was like either just get a lot of help or just don't do it at all. And so I felt like I would rather just get a lot of help as opposed to don't do it at all. And I still learned some stuff. So like I learned how to make a nav bar and like how to use styling and things like that. And so I didn't copy the whole Bootstrap page because I didn't have time, but I just kind of made a basic layout of that. And then there was one other thing. So in the pre-course part 3, there was actually something moderately difficult, I would say. And so you had to make a JSON parser, which essentially takes JSON data and converts it into a structure. And so if you have something like this, you need to convert it into a structure. And so that was moderately difficult, I feel like, because you had to have like a recursive object. You also had to figure out like if you have JSON arrays or JSON objects, how do you actually split it? And so what I ended up doing was I actually ended up using a function to split, like this could be used for an array or an object, and then I just checked at like what level I was in using parentheses, kind of similarly to how you do like a validate parentheses type thing. And so I got levels, and then I would split my object based on like what level I was in. I need to be in the first level. And yeah, essentially you're just checking like if your thing is a string, if your thing is, whatever, like a Boolean or yeah. But I'd say this was reasonably difficult. Maybe, I mean, time-wise, it definitely took me a while. I don't know if I'd say it's like elite code hard, also because I can like Google a bunch of stuff. So maybe, I mean, yeah, if you have to Google it, or sorry, if you have to write it like in an interview, it would definitely be like close to impossible. Like you don't have time. But it took me a few hours, so that was like the hardest JavaScript assessment I had so far. And then we also had to make an Instagram clone, and I did that as well. So let me show you that. So I think, so you basically had to make like a login page, and this actually has functionality. I know this looks like it was made in 1995, which is, whatever. I think I did this in like a day. Like I said, I just got a lot of help with it. Well, I did it on myself, but I ChatGPT'd a lot of things because I just had like a day to do it. And so essentially you have a login, and you can like, and if you double click an image, you should have a like, and you can like leave comments. And also these images are JSON data from another site, so you need to read JSON data from another site, and you need to show it. And so I used like a really basic layout here just because I didn't have a lot of time. Yeah. And you need to have like a profile picture, and then you need to be able to go back to the home page. And if you log in with like some invalid data, it should say like invalid and things like that. So that was pretty much it for the pre-course. And then let me look at some other stuff here. So then I can show you kind of what we did in week one, day by day. So it started off with a pre-course review, which is essentially they give you like a test on the things you're supposed to know. And so I can actually pull that up as well. So essentially it was like some basic JavaScript stuff, like pretty much LeetCodeeasies again, that I, did really fast, like capitalize vowels, like convert camel to snake, things like that are like pretty easy that you can just do. Like if you're familiar with syntax, you should be able to do in like a couple minutes each. And then they also had a site that you had to make a copy of, which was, I mean, honestly, all of it was like pretty straightforward. It's just you had like an hour or 50 minutes or something to do everything. And so I was kind of definitely running out of time, because even though the CSS is like pretty straightforward, I only had to look up how to make an, I used unordered list before, but I didn't know how to make it like, a 2-column unordered list. So I had to look that up. And then also these have a bunch of links to a bunch of things, which is also pretty straightforward. Like you just use a bunch of hrefs. But like given the time you have, it's definitely not easy to finish. And I think most people, like I said, I have a ton of algorithm experience. Most people definitely didn't finish. Like a lot of people just take like 10 times longer to do the JavaScript than me, and so they didn't even either get to the site, or they didn't have time to do any of it. So let me pull up what my site looked like here. If I could find the review. Here's it is. Okay, so here's what my site looked like, and then they gave me some feedback. So I think they said like, nice job, but you could have done some error handling better in your JavaScript. And so I'm kind of not used to a lot of that on LeetCode. Like, if something it takes an integer, I'm not expecting to like check if it's a string. But, in real output, that makes some sense. And so I think the errors they had in here, so it definitely didn't do everything. And also when you click and you go back, this should be like red, like a normal site, like to simulate clicked. But I didn't have time. Like I barely finished everything. And like I said, I knew the algorithm stuff pretty well. So I think for most people, definitely not easy to finish. But they also don't expect you to finish. And then, so what happens is if you struggle, like if they see you're doing badly, then they will assign someone to kind of like help you catch up. Yeah, and so they're gonna have an assessment like every week for that. And then, yeah, so we had an assessment, we had some lectures, and then we had a challenge on JS fundamentals. So let me just go back here. And honestly, another big thing I learned so far is just like using GitHub, using pull requests, like forking repos, like using all that kind of stuff because I didn't really use GitHub too much before. And so just like getting comfortable with it, like sharing code with other people, committing, pulling theirs, pushing it into the main directory, things like that. Like I've only been there for a week and I felt like I already have a decent understanding of it just because you also had to do it in the pre-course system as well. So the first unit was this JS fundamentals, and essentially it was just like things you're kind of supposed to know already, but essentially it's you have some basic. It starts off really basic and then it gets tougher. But the other thing is you're coding with someone, and so this was the other issue I had where I was pretty far ahead in algorithms compared to other people. But when you code with someone, they want you to like stay on the same pace. So I was kind of like, okay, I can't like tell them everything, but how do I maintain a good pace? And so that was definitely difficult for me. And they really emphasize like try to work together. If you know something, help the other guy, but like don't just bulldoze through it. Make sure he actually gets it. And so I was definitely getting some feedback where I was doing that a bit too much. And I also had the mindset, and I think I'm gonna, especially I changed it during the week where I was trying to finish everything, but then I realized like for these early things, like I already know them. So like for this first one, I think we got to like I think I commented where we got to, but anyway, we got to like somewhere around here, and then I ended up after the class just doing the rest of them on my own just to make sure I could finish everything. It definitely got tougher, but yeah, it wasn't too tough, right? Like so it's pretty straightforward stuff. Yeah, like how to make a zip. Let's see. And then I think the only thing that took me a little while was memoize, which was a little weird because you have to. They want you to make like string keys, which I'm not used to doing, and then this clone deep thing. So if you have like an object that's multiple layers deep, copy the object, something like that. And so that definitely took me a little while to think of and like how it works. And I do think like, yeah, I don't think it was too bad, but I think the main struggle for me was honestly just keeping up with my partner, like making sure not keeping up with my partner, but just like not getting too far ahead and like working with him and things like that. Okay. And so they also really emphasize, and I think I was kind of a skeptic to begin with, but I think they really emphasize like teamwork, communication, just like working together and just like having like a good environment, which is really good because like if you're really good at something, but if you can't talk to people and you're not a good culture fit, like who cares type of thing, right? Like no one's gonna want to work with you, and so definitely they emphasize that like every day, which I thought was pretty good. So let's see. So in day two, we were continuing this fundamentals thing, and then we had our. So what they do during the first week is people that are. It's a 12-week program, and so there's like juniors and seniors, and the juniors are the people that are in the first 6 weeks, and the seniors are the people that are in the last 6 weeks. And so what they do is they have the seniors review your code, but essentially because like I said, I'm pretty far ahead in algorithms compared to most people, there wasn't too much to review. Like everything was fine, and it was like I didn't come up with like a brute force to some like easy question. Like I just came up with the optimal solution right away. So there's definitely like maybe my partner missed some experience there where like if I get a leak code easy, I'm not gonna like brute force it. Like I know the optimal solution pretty fast, and so there's not much to like refactor or anything. So I don't think we got too much out of this, but we mostly just talked to the seniors and figured out like, okay, how was your experience and things like that. And so they went over the solutions. So every time what they do is you have 2 days to pair program with like they just give you a random partner on some topic, and then they go over the solution to like the tougher questions on there. Yeah, and then you have a lunch and a dinner, and then you have a 2-hour lunch on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you have a 1-hour lunch on Mondays. Or sorry, you have a 1-hour dinner on Mondays, and they want you to like it's like a family dinner type thing, which I'm not a huge fan of honestly because well, actually, I don't think it matters to me because I usually don't really eat dinner at like 5, so I'm fine being there. But I feel like I would rather just have more of the rest time. Like definitely a lot of the things they want you to have more activities. I would rather just like rest. Okay. And so during day 3, we had a hack hour. And so in a hack hour, pretty much what they do is they give you like a problem to do. It's pretty straightforward, right? I can pull it up. But like I said, I was pretty far ahead of people, so it was tougher for other people. Let me see if I find it. Unit 1, yeah, I think it was one of these. Yeah. So this is like, I could show you the hack hours we did, during the first week. And like I said, if you've done leak codes, I mean, this will be like super easy for you. Uh, so the first one was like FizzBuzz or something, where you're literally just checking for remainders. I could have definitely had a cleaner solution, but like, I mean, time complexity, whatever, like who cares, right? Yeah. So this is like, leak code easy pretty much. And then the FizzBuzz other thing wanted you to have more remainders, which is still leak code easy, I would say. And then they wanted you to draw stairs, which is probably leak code easy. This is, probably a leak code easy, maybe it's like barely medium, I'd say. So it's pretty straightforward. And then they wanted you to do a binary decimal converter, which I would say is, maybe a leak code medium, maybe leak code easy, hard to say, but definitely not like if you've done leak codes, you've done some bit manipulation, pretty straightforward. So that was the challenges that they had to do during week 1, but they do get progressively harder, and this is intended for people that have never seen these things. So if I haven't seen these things, like this is what I was doing, during my degree, like I had some of these problems during my degree, and so definitely I would think it's easy. But if you've never seen it before, or if you haven't done leak codes, like imagine you've never done a leak code in your life, and then like you're asked to do like a binary to int converter, I'd say it's not super easy. Okay. And so our second like challenge was data structures, and so we worked on it for 2 days. So let me show you that. And I do think this was a lot. Like if you, it depends how, I would say for this, it would depend how familiar you are on leak codes. But like, so for me, it was, I would say that if I didn't work with a programming partner here and I just did everything by myself in the time that they gave us, I would barely finish because they give you a ton. And so I definitely think they don't expect you to finish and not even get close. And so let me show you what happened here. So, and like I said, if you're new to this, like I probably spent like a week or like, a week on one data structure or maybe 2, and they give you like so many. I think most people didn't get to the extension at all. But like I said, if I was to do this myself, I would finish everything, but barely, I think. And so you have to make a stack, which is pretty straightforward. You have to make a queue, which is pretty straightforward. And so you're using this prototype, which is new to me in JavaScript, to make a queue. So enqueue, dequeue, linked list. Like imagine you haven't seen a linked list before, and you have to design a linked list. Not easy at all, I would say. But yeah, like for me, pretty straightforward. So we didn't get to the bonuses because I was just trying to make sure that I wouldn't like bulldoze ahead. And this is where I realized like there's just no benefit for me in finishing everything because like I know this stuff, so I'd rather just like help my partner out as much as I can. Okay. So they did linked list, they did queue stack, hash table, and the actual implementation of a hash table using like a linked list or an array, which I definitely thought was not easy as well. And this was like, keep in mind, all the lecture for all this was like a 2-hour lecture or something, or hour and a half. And then it's like, all right, now that we've seen an hour and a half lecture on this, go code all this shit up. Definitely think it's yeah. But like I said, if you obviously if you've done like, I think I've probably done like 500 leak codes, so I've seen problems in these like a billion times. So yeah, like if I had to make a depth for search or any of these things, it's pretty straightforward. And so I think we ended up doing I don't know why it's not stored in here, but we ended up finishing like all the main stuff, and then we started doing some bonus stuff. But so yeah, so in extension they have a graph, and then they have like a priority queue or like a heap, which I mean I would probably be able to code it up reasonably fast. Like I just have to look up how the children work in the queue, or sorry, in the heap, because I don't remember the exact like thing to calculate the index. But like with like a little bit of refresher, I can definitely code that up. And then like a set is pretty much just a hash table. But there's just a ton, and like a tree with infinite children, also not too hard to code up, but keep in mind no one has seen it. And then a try, which I was like, you're expecting people to code up a try, like, and this is their first introduction to data structures, like what? So that definitely seemed kind of insane. But yeah, so I was focusing most of my time, and if you are going into this with a strong leak code background, I would say it's going to be the same thing for you. The first week is just going to be a review, like pretty easy review. And yeah. And so the next unit we had, let me see here. So we had data structures, we had a lunch, we finished it. And then also what they do, yeah, so we had a lecture on Git, which was good. They showed you like how to fork repos, how to like merge some other stuff. I definitely need to spend more time using that, and I think I will be, well, like once I'm actually working with like you work with a team later on to make a project, and then you're going to be doing more commits, and it's going to be like tougher Git stuff. Yeah, so that was the data structures, and that was 2 days, and then the first 2 days was JS fundamentals. Then they went into algorithms and time complexity, and this was also new to everyone, and so they had like a same kind of thing. So every time you work with a person for 2 days, and then you do reviews, and so I got a lot of reviews. Like I was definitely trying to not do everything, and I was trying to slow down, but I think I could have slowed down more. Like I think I was just a little bit impatient, for sure. And so they definitely stress that, like, try to help people out if you know the stuff, because you don't get anything out of finishing. Like, so okay. And so the last 2 days for the week one was algorithms, and so I can pull that up as well. Oh, let's see here, algorithms. And so it was, if you've never seen it before, once again, like if you haven't done like LeetCode mediums, I'd say there's going to be a lot of new stuff. So like palindrome is like a LeetCode easy. Is prime LeetCode easy? I'd say Fibonacci probably LeetCode easy. Function bind, which is not. So this one took me a reasonable amount of time because this isn't like a LeetCode problem. This is a JavaScript problem. And so for these things that are like JavaScript specific, take me longer because I've never seen it before, like what a function bind does or any of that. So I did that. A rock paper scissors, which is a backtracking, which I would say is at least, I'd probably say it's like a medium. Like it's like a permutations, you know, like given some numbers, get all the permutations. Definitely, if you've never seen it before, like good luck solving it, you know, in your first day. And then they had three sorts, and my partner actually like took some time after the class to learn some of it because he knew that I was like super far ahead. And so I was literally just saying like, I'll give you some hints if you need to, but you can just code these up on your own. And so he actually did the insertion sort and the bubble sort on his own, I think. And then I explained to him like how a merge sort works, and then we got through it. But yeah, I don't think he would have done it like if I didn't go into like decent detail, like if we were both on the same level, just not knowing anything. Okay, and then they had a part 2 here, which was, so one of these was coin sum, which is like a coin change LeetCode problem. I think it's like a medium problem. And I actually learned that in JavaScript, there is a like maximum call stack. So I literally implemented the same solution that I had in one of my LeetCode videos. I think it was like coin change 2 or something. And then I had a call stack exceeded, so I had to refactor this. Or I was like, do they really want you to do bottom-up DP so you don't have like a call stack issue? You know, when you're learning algorithms, that seems insane. But yeah, so I was like, let's either skip it or whatever. And so I ended up fixing this to make it work and like the call stack that they gave us. And yeah, I had to explain it to my partner again because like, I mean, it's just like, you're never doing a DP problem. You know, imagine it's like your second day of LeetCode, you're given coin change. Like, you know, what are you going to do, right? And then they had an NPaths problem, which was you have a board and you'd have to try to get from the left to the right. So it's like a DFS problem, and you're given the maximum number of paths. So you have to do a DFS and a like a visited set or something. So I think what they said is we said we finished coin sum, and then they said like no one finished coin sum. So they asked my partner like, so how much did you really get out of the stuff you did? And then he was definitely like, yeah, I don't know, like we definitely went kind of fast. But yeah, that was all for that. And then let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, so we had our code review and things like that. And then, yeah, and I think, so I actually did, just to start week 2, I'll make a review in another video. And so in week 2, we're doing front-end fundamentals. And definitely there, it's taking me a lot longer because it's all new to me. Like I haven't really done front-end stuff. I've just done algorithms. So there I'm more like on the same level as the other person. But as far as like the DOM manipulation, front-end fundamentals, like when we actually do have to make complicated JavaScript functions to use in our code, like I'm definitely good at that stuff. But as far as like using the front end, the CSS, like all that, it's definitely taking me longer now. In our first project, I'll talk about that later. Yeah, like we finished the necessary stuff, but we definitely didn't finish the bonus stuff. So I think as we get farther into the boot camp, it's gonna slow down more for me. Where like I'm not just gonna be miles ahead, so I'm probably gonna have to put in more time outside of the boot camp to make sure that I know what I'm doing and maybe like learn a course or something on my own. But pretty much their motto is like, we're just gonna throw you into the deep end of the pool and like good luck swimming. And they keep doing that. Like it's not like a traditional CS class where like you have just like a bunch of time to finish. Like they don't expect you to finish, and they expect you to struggle like on everything, which is, I think it's kind of good because then when you run into problems you've never seen before, you're gonna like be like, oh, I was in these spots, where like I didn't know what the hell to do. I didn't know where to start, and I still got through it. So I definitely think that so far it's been pretty good. Like I said, week 1 was a bit of a review, um, but yeah, I think week 2 has started picking up, and I definitely, like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the like working together and whatever type of thing, but I think I'm like getting more on board as it's been going and just like helping people. And they also do a lot of lectures on like imposter syndrome or like bias or whatever, just like like good relationships in the workplace, and that's something that I need to work on because I've just been coding on my own. So yeah. So yeah, that's going to be it for the week 1 review, and I will make another review after week 2. So I will see you guys in that one. Thanks for watching this one. Definitely was kind of long, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought.